All right, welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be taking a look at Daniel chapter 2.
Ooh, Daniel chapter 2.
From the Complete Jewish Bible Translation.
Excellent.
And, listeners out there are always wanting to get a better grasp on this chapter. And
Absolutely.
we have some commentary from a website called MCS, and they frame it in a way that I think is really thought-provoking.
Yeah.
This isn't just like some ancient history lesson.
Right.
This is about, prophecy, the rise and fall of empires, and even some hints at how it all ends, the end times.
I think what's so interesting about this chapter is that it really starts out with something that we can all relate to.
Yeah.
Even Nebuchadnezzar,
Yeah.
the most powerful king in the world at the time, is deeply disturbed by these nightmares that he's having.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes you think about how even those in power grapple with these very unsettling experiences. I mean, can you imagine?
It's true. You wouldn't think a king would be so spooked by a dream.
Oh.
But, this one really throws him off.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting to me is that he turns to everyone except God's people for answers.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's going out of his way to avoid the one source that could actually help him.
And that's a great observation. And I think it's kind of like how we sometimes approach problems today.
Oh, totally.
We often look everywhere for solutions, except in faith or spirituality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine this.
Okay.
You're standing before the king.
Uh-huh.
And he demands that you not only recount his dream, but that you actually tell him what he dreamt.
Yeah.
Like you reveal it to him.
Wow.
And you interpret it.
Oh, my goodness.
And if you don't, well, the consequences are pretty dire.
The kicker is you weren't even there for the dream.
Right.
Can you imagine the pressure? This is like,
I know.
an impossible task.
Yeah.
But I think that's the point.
Yeah.
This impossible challenge creates the perfect setup for God to reveal his power. And, the MCS commentary actually compares this to the situation with humanity's sin.
Okay.
We couldn't fix it ourselves.
We were totally stuck.
And then Jesus comes on the scene and offers a solution.
It's like, hold my drink. Watch this.
It's right.
I love that comparison because it really highlights how we need someone, something bigger than ourselves, to step in sometimes.
Absolutely.
So what does Daniel do when faced with this impossible task?
Well, he goes straight to prayer.
He doesn't hesitate.
He doesn't try to come up with some clever scheme.
No.
He turns to God for guidance.
What a powerful example for us.
It is.
When you're facing your own impossible situation, how quickly do you turn to prayer?
That's right.
Daniel, it seems like his first instinct is to seek divine help.
Yeah, and speaking of divine intervention,
Yes.
MCS really emphasizes the role of the Holy Spirit here.
Okay.
They argue that true understanding, that aha moment, comes from divine guidance, not just from racking our brains.
It's not about intellectual gymnastics. It's about being open to a higher wisdom.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get to the heart of the dream here, this incredible statue that Nebuchadnezzar sees.
Okay, the statue is where things get really symbolic.
And it's described in such vivid detail. It's almost like you are right there.
I know.
Alongside Nebuchadnezzar, a head of gold, a chest and arms of silver, then a belly and thighs of bronze.
Wow.
Legs of iron, and get this, feet of iron mixed with clay.
Ooh, what's the deal with that?
I know. What is that about?
So the symbolism here is key.
Okay.
MCS explains that each metal represents a succeeding kingdom,
Okay.
each one weaker than the last.
Okay.
So the head of gold, that's Babylon.
Got it.
Nebuchadnezzar's own empire at its height. And then you have the silver representing the Medo-Persian Empire, which would eventually conquer Babylon, then bronze for the Greek Empire, and finally iron for the mighty Roman Empire.
So all these empires, their rise and fall, it was all foretold in this dream. That's incredible.
It's like a prophetic timeline of world powers laid out in a dream.
It's like getting a sneak peek at the entire course of history. But what about those strange clay feet?
Yeah.
They seem out of place.
Yeah, that's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
MCS suggests that the clay mixed with iron represents this crucial weakness within the Roman Empire. It's not just about military strength. It's about internal divisions. And a love of pleasure that would ultimately undermine their power.
Oh, I see.
It's like a mighty building with a foundation that's partly strong iron and partly crumbly clay.
Oh, interesting.
It's an inherent vulnerability there.
So even the greatest empires have their Achilles heel.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if there's a similar pattern in the empires of today.
Right.
But we'll save that for later.
Let's get back to the statue.
Yeah, we have this amazing statue representing all this worldly power, and then, bam. A rock appears seemingly out of nowhere.
And not just any rock. This rock doesn't just nudge the statue, it smashes it to smithereens.
What a dramatic entrance. What's the significance of this mysterious rock?
Well, this is where things get really profound.
Okay.
The rock represents the kingdom of God, established by Jesus. And remember how MCS pointed out that Jesus is often referred to as the rejected stone in other parts of the Bible?
It's ringing a bell.
Like the book of Acts, the Psalms.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how this image of the stone keeps appearing, and it's always connected to Jesus.
I love that.
And MCS makes this really important distinction here.
Okay.
They say this smashing of the statue, this triumph of God's kingdom, it actually happens in 2 stages.
Okay.
Spiritually, it happened when believers became a kingdom through Christ. But the full earthly manifestation of that kingdom, the one that completely overthrows all other kingdoms, is still to come.
Wow, so this chapter isn't just about the rise and fall of empires.
Right.
It's about this ultimate triumph of God's kingdom.
That's right.
I'm already seeing Daniel chapter 2 in a whole new light.
Good.
I'm blown away by the idea that this dream could contain a roadmap of history and even hints about the end times.
Absolutely.
But it also raises a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Like, how does Nebuchadnezzar react to all of this?
Yeah.
Does he just brush it off as some crazy dream?
Right.
Or does it actually impact him?
Oh, Nebuchadnezzar, he's completely floored.
Really?
By Daniel's interpretation. Yeah, it's like this sudden realization.
Yeah.
You know, there's this power at work here.
Uh-huh.
Far greater than anything he's ever encountered before.
Yeah.
I mean, he even orders offerings to be made to Daniel's God.
So it's not just about solving this riddle of the dream.
Right.
It's about recognizing the source of that wisdom.
That's right.
It's a power move for sure,
Well,
but it's all about pointing back to the true power.
Exactly. Yeah, and MCS believes that this kind of divine intervention, you know, these signs and wonders, they're going to become more and more prevalent as we get closer to what they call the day of the Lord.
Oh, okay.
And that's something for all of us to consider.
Yeah. What exactly does the day of the Lord refer to?
Oh, it's a concept that appears throughout the Bible.
Okay.
And it essentially refers to a time of judgment and ultimate victory for God's kingdom.
Okay.
It's often associated with the end times.
Right.
But there are different interpretations about what that will look like and when it will happen.
Right.
Some people see it as a literal 24-hour day.
Wow.
While others view it as this period of time that could span, you know, years or even centuries.
So not necessarily about predicting like a date,
right,
but more like understanding the bigger pattern of God's work in history.
Exactly. And MCS sees Daniel chapter 2 as this key piece of that puzzle. It shows us how God is working through human history, you know, orchestrating events to ultimately bring about his purposes.
But it's also important to remember that this chapter isn't just about these grand historical events. It's also about personal transformation.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, think about Daniel's character.
Right.
His humility.
Yeah.
His courage. His unwavering faith.
That's inspiring.
It's true. He could have easily taken credit for interpreting this dream.
Right.
But he consistently gives God the glory.
Yeah.
And, you know, even when his life is on the line, he doesn't compromise his integrity.
He does not.
Absolutely inspiring.
And MCS suggests that we can learn a lot. From Daniel's example, they point out that he didn't just pray for himself. He prayed for the king and even for the other wise men who were plotting against him.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's a powerful example of intercession and forgiveness.
He's like, don't worry, guys. I got you.
Right.
What a stand-up guy.
It really reminds me of that concept of substitutionary atonement.
Oh, yeah.
That MCS mentioned earlier, the idea that Jesus took our place, that he bore the punishment we deserved.
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful picture of grace and compassion.
And it's not about escaping punishment.
It's not.
It's about being reconciled to God.
Yes, absolutely.
So after Daniel interprets the dream, doesn't he get a major promotion?
He does. Nebuchadnezzar appoints him to this high position in the Babylonian government.
Okay.
And not only that, but Daniel also uses his influence to get his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, also appointed to positions of authority.
It's like this beautiful chain reaction of blessing and favor.
Right.
God blesses Daniel. Daniel blesses his friends.
That's right.
And who knows how many others were impacted by their faithfulness and wisdom.
Yeah.
And MCS sees this as this great example of how God's favor can extend outward, how our blessings can ripple out to those around us.
It's a beautiful thought, and it reminds us that we're not just individuals on this journey of faith. Yeah.
But we're part of a community.
Speaking of community, did you notice that the language in the book of Daniel switches to Aramaic?
Oh, I did. I thought that was really interesting.
Right in the middle of this chapter.
Yeah, MCS mentions that Aramaic was kind of like the common language of diplomacy back then.
Right.
You know, kind of like English is today.
Yeah.
It was spoken throughout the ancient Near East. And it was often used in international correspondence.
So it makes sense that they would switch to Aramaic when the Babylonian wise men come before the king.
Yeah.
It's like the narrative is highlighting this cross-cultural communication, this need to understand each other.
That's one way to look at it. It also suggests, you know, that this message wasn't just for Nebuchadnezzar or the people of Babylon, but it was intended for a much wider audience.
Maybe even us today?
Precisely.
Wow.
And here's another intriguing detail.
Okay.
Aramaic was also the language that Jesus spoke. Oh, wow.
On the cross.
That's giving me chills.
Yeah.
It's like this ancient language is connecting us to both the prophecy in Daniel and the fulfillment of that prophecy in Jesus.
That's right.
It's like this thread.
It is.
Running through history.
Now, let's go back to that question you raised earlier about Nebuchadnezzar's reaction to the dream.
Okay.
Remember how MCS pointed out that Nebuchadnezzar was surrounded by statues?
Yeah.
They were a part of his everyday life. Right. So when God wanted to get his attention, he used something familiar, the statue, but made it extraordinary.
Yeah.
Even terrifying.
That's such a clever way to communicate.
It is.
It's like speaking someone's language, meeting them where they are.
Exactly.
It makes me think about how God might be trying to communicate with us today.
Right.
Using things that are familiar to us. But in ways that might surprise us.
Absolutely. And MCS believes that God is constantly speaking to us. But it's up to us to tune in. Yeah. To pay attention to those whispers of wisdom. Yeah. You know, those aha moments.
And sometimes those aha moments come through dreams.
Sometimes, yes. But it's not always about, you know, some dramatic vision or a voice from heaven. Right. It might be a song that touches your heart.
Oh, yeah.
A conversation with a friend that sparks an insight or a passage in scripture that suddenly jumps out at you.
It's about being open to those subtle nudges.
Yes.
Those moments of clarity that come when we least expect them, like maybe right now.
Yeah.
As we're diving deep into Daniel chapter 2, right?
Exactly. But those insights... they don't just happen randomly.
Right.
Remember, Daniel didn't just guess the interpretation of the dream.
Yeah.
He prayed for guidance, and God revealed the secret to him.
Which is so different from how the other wise men approached the situation.
It is.
They were all about trying to impress the king with their own knowledge and abilities.
Exactly. They relied on their own understanding, while Daniel acknowledged that the wisdom came from God.
And that humility is key.
It is.
It's not about how much we know,
but
about recognizing that we don't know it all.
That's right.
It's about being open to learning and growing.
That's such an important point.
So we've talked about Nebuchadnezzar's reaction, Daniel's character, the symbolism of the statue, the day of the Lord. What else is there to unpack in this chapter?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I'm ready to keep diving deeper. Well, I think one of the most intriguing things we've talked about is this idea that Daniel chapter 2 might actually offer us some clues about the end times.
Yeah, how so?
I mean, what's the connection there?
Well, you know, if you remember that statue with its different metals representing different kingdoms, MCS suggests that this prophecy isn't just about ancient history.
Okay.
They see it as this pattern of kingdoms rising and falling. That continues throughout history, eventually leading to the final establishment of God's kingdom.
Oh, it's like a roadmap showing us the big picture.
Exactly.
Of of how God's plan is unfolding through time.
Uh-huh. And that rock smashing the statue.
Yeah.
That represents the ultimate victory of God's kingdom over all earthly powers.
Right.
And C.S. also points out that some of the events described in the book of Revelation actually seem to line up with the symbolism in Nebuchadnezzar's dream.
Really?
Yeah, they even go so far as to say that Daniel chapter 2 might be a key to understanding how things will play out in the end times.
That's pretty intense.
It is.
It makes you want to go back and reread both Daniel and Revelation with fresh eyes.
Right.
But it also raises a lot of questions.
Like what?
Like, for example, if those clay feet represent the Roman Empire's weaknesses, what are the clay feet of the powers that rule today?
That's a great question, and I think it's one that each of us needs to really grapple with.
Yeah.
You know, MCS points out that the Roman Empire wasn't just strong militarily.
Right.
It was also known for its love of pleasure, its extravagance, and its internal divisions.
Right.
All of these things ultimately contributed to its downfall.
So are they saying that those same weaknesses could be at play?
Possibly.
In the world today?
It's something to consider.
Yeah.
You know, think about the challenges that we face today. Things like political polarization, social unrest, economic instability, the growing gap between the rich and the poor.
Yeah.
Could these be signs of a crumbling foundation?
Okay, now I'm starting to get a little nervous.
Oh, come on.
But hey, at least we have that rock representing God's kingdom coming in to smash the whole thing and set things right.
Yeah.
Talk about an epic finale.
Oh, it's definitely a comforting thought.
Yeah.
But remember what MCS said about those two stages of God's kingdom. That spiritual kingdom has already been established through Christ, but the full earthly manifestation of that kingdom is still to come.
Right. So it's not like we're just sitting around twiddling our thumbs.
No.
Waiting for the world to end.
That's right.
We're called to be active participants in building that kingdom.
That's right.
Right now, right where we are.
Exactly. It's about being those rocks in the world.
Yeah.
Those agents of change who are bringing hope and healing.
Yeah.
Wherever we go, it's about reflecting God's love and justice in our everyday lives.
That's a much more empowering way to think about it.
It is.
So what does MCS say about, how we can actually do that?
Yeah.
How can we be those rocks in a world that often feels like it's falling apart?
Well, they point to Daniel as this great example.
Right.
You know, remember how he prayed for guidance, gave God the glory, and used his influence to help others?
Yeah.
Those are all things that we can do too.
So it's not about waiting for some supernatural intervention or becoming some kind of superhero.
No.
It's about the everyday choices we make.
Right.
The ways we choose to live out our faith in practical, tangible ways.
It's about seeking God's wisdom in every situation, being a source of love and support for those around us, and working to make the world a better place, even in small ways.
Yeah.
You know, it's about being alert to those aha moments when God is trying to get our attention and guide us.
And those moments can come in all sorts of unexpected ways, right?
They can.
Like maybe he's even speaking to us right now through this deep dive into Daniel chapter 2.
I love that thought.
I have to admit, I am walking away from this conversation with a whole new perspective on this chapter.
Good.
It's not just an ancient story. It's a message that speaks to us today, offering hope, guidance, and even a glimpse into the future.
Absolutely. And for you, our listener, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to dig deeper into this incredible chapter.
Yeah.
It's packed with insights that are just as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And as you reread Daniel chapter 2, pay close attention to the symbolism and see what connections you can make to the events happening in the world today. You might be surprised by what you discover.
So much truth. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking those aha moments.
Yeah.
You never know where they might lead you.